I think our largest one was almost 500 founders and like a couple different panels of investors. And
Wow.
who's moderating and who's like introducing? Of course, it's me.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm Nathan. We're launching FounderSuite. Oh, by the way, you're all here to meet investors and talk to investors. It was kind of a triple win-win because we got exposure to our product. We made a little bit of money, like a couple $1,000 per event, not a ton of money.
What's going on, Nathan? Welcome to the Forever Podcast, man. What's going on today?
Oh, today's an exciting day. Today's my birthday.
Happy birthday.
I turned 39 once again. I'm not going to say more than that, but yeah, it's pretty fun. I've got a dirty martini and a steak dinner ahead of me tonight and a fun weekend right behind me. So all good.
Yeah. So you're going to end the day with a bang, because I know you said that today was kind of crazy.
Yeah, I think so. At least the martini part, right? So can't go wrong.
At least that's guaranteed. The martini is guaranteed. Exactly. That's awesome. That's awesome. Since it's your birthday, I'm gonna do something a little different. What's a reflection moment for you? Since this is like this is a rare moment on the podcast, we can actually have somebody on their birthday. So what's a reflection over the past year or whatever's going through your mind?
You know, that's a good question. Birthdays are funny. I mean, as you get older, I think you start to dread them a little bit, but at the same time, it's also, I'm getting texts from friends, family, people I haven't talked to in a while, just wishing me good stuff. And it just, the reflection part, I think, is just like, man, people, like, you feel the love, and it kind of brings home once a year that people love you.
Yeah.
and so the reflection part is just being grateful for that, right? It's like so awesome to just feel the love of your friends and family. So that's it.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Well, let everybody know who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm Nathan Beckord. I run two startups, actually. One's called FounderSuite.com, and that's software for raising capital for startups. And we've been around about 8 years, helped almost 100,000 startups raise capital. And then our new platform is called fundingstack.com. And that's only been around since February, so pretty new. And for that one, we're helping about 400 emerging manager venture funds and advisors, consultants raise capital. So that's what I do.
Nice. And what is a day in the life for you? So you're the CEO. What is the day in the life? Are you in the day-to-day operations? Are you just the visionary? I mean, like, give me a little insight.
Oh, I wish I was just a visionary. It's very much in the operations, and probably to a fault. I would say almost. I was having a conversation with a friend recently. We're still pretty small. We're like 27 people or so. Yeah. And we're not big enough where I have a layer of like managers, right? So I'm literally still in product, in sales, in engineering, in financials, and just operations, and just keeping it all moving, right? I'm in too many things, to be honest, but it's also kind of fun to spread around.
Yeah, for sure. I know oftentimes people think that CEOs is a glorified position, right? I mean, but really you're rolling up your sleeves and you're getting into the weeds, because you got to make sure you keep the engine going, right? And keep it moving. And especially at that level, you're also at a place of like where a lot of companies will either they're going to go up or they may just fizzle out, or an implosion happens almost, because you get a certain level of success, and then when you have a lot more people to manage, you got more things, right? Like Biggie Small said, more money, more problems.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's very true. In your line of work, what do you see as far as with founders? That's the most exciting thing about founders as far as working with them. And then also, what's one of their, like, guess, shortcomings of a founder?
Oh yeah, great question. I love founders. That's kind of why I started this. I started my career in investment banking, which is this sexy, glamorous world, but I hated it, right? I didn't like wearing suits and working like these crazy hours. I loved entrepreneurship, which has, what do I like about it? Creativity, right? You're creating something from basically nothing, from almost magic, like building something from nothing. Um, and just the drive and hustle and energy of founders is so fun. I went to 2 different events in the past 2 weeks. One event was called SF Tech Week, and it was like 600 events here in San Francisco, all startup related events. You walk into an event and you're just chatting with people. What do you do? And you're learning all these interesting businesses and all the fun, kind of crazy chaos of early stage founders. And then the week after that, last week, I went to a family office conference. Now, these are mostly CIOs, chief investment officers, representing, wealthy families. And it was very dry. It was like tax strategies for doing this and that. And I walked in, I'm like, I'm a little underdressed here. Everyone else was in,
Yeah.
very business casual. And it was just a much more dry, dry crowd. And I remember having the moment like, God, I kind of wish I was back with the founders, right? Because they're so much more fun and interesting. So that's what's fun about founders. What's difficult about them? The second part of your question. I mean, founders. I heard a great quote one time, which I love. It's like, you become a founder. How the quote goes? Basically, like, many people become a founder because they're basically unemployable. Right? It's like, oh, you just can't seem to hold
I think
a
that's
job.
me.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going back.
But there's a personality type for founders. You have to be a little bit crazy and almost irrationally, have an irrational belief in what you're doing,
Of course.
to make it, because it's so hard. It's much harder than we think it will be. And so I guess the negative side of that is like, yeah, people are crazy sometimes. There's a lot of nutty people out there being
Yeah.
founders. So
Yeah, we gotta be a little crazy, a little delusional to do what we're doing. But honestly, that's how invention happens. That's how creation happens. Because it's all crazy until it works, right?
yeah,
I mean, that's just the truth.
history remembers the crazy ones that succeeded. They forget the 98% of the crazy
Yeah,
ones who failed, right?
that failed.
Yeah.
Exactly. So as far as working with founders, and you've helped a lot of founders actually raise capital. What are some of the best ways that you've seen founders as far as to get access to capital, just in your line of work, right? I mean, and just and maybe actually break it down into, if you could give me the top three. What's the top three ways that people can really get access to capital, so that way they can get the funding to actually get their business off the ground?
Yeah. Well, I won't include this as one of the top 3, but you have to
Yeah.
have something. You have to start with, you have to have something that's fundable. Okay. Let's just start with basic
Oh,
principles.
great.
Right?
Yeah.
You got to have some business that's, maybe it's still early and small and you don't have a lot of traction, but it's out there in the market, or you have such a clever idea and a background experience that people will believe you can pull it off. So let's assume you have something that's, fundable. I mean,
Mhm.
probably a lot of startups don't make it because they really aren't fundable, but let's assume you have something fundable. I'd say the top 3 is, number 1 is, you know, thinking of fundraising as a a methodical process,
Mhm.
right? A lot of founders just kind of go out there and like asking everyone they know if they can introduce them to investors, but they're just like bouncing around like a pinball in a pinball machine, like trying to raise money, and they don't get anywhere.
Yeah.
So instead, having a very methodical process, and I always talk about like fundraising as a sales process where you go in, you build a list of target investors, and you got to put in the time and effort to really research investors, identify, oh, this fund or these people, this angel, this family office does invest in medical devices at the seed stage,
Mm.
based in Southern California, whatever it is, right? Doing the research, identifying the list of targets, and then having a really just methodical approach to how you're getting in touch with them, getting the intros, pushing everyone along through kind of your sales cycle through the stages of your funnel. So that would be one of them. The other is having a good pitch. These investors get so
Yes.
much, right?
Yes.
Talk to an investor. Ask an investor who's actively doing deals how many pitches they get per day, per week, per month. It's probably in the hundreds, sometimes thousands, right? So you got
Yeah.
to stand out. There's so much noise out there. It's almost like trying to become a professional singer or musician or something. Like only the little top of that iceberg makes it, right? So having a really, really good pitch, and that takes work too. You got to put in the work to get your pitch right and practice it over and over and over again. And then the third one is a bit more fuzzy, but just kind of creating this like energy and FOMO and momentum around your deal, right?
Yeah.
You've got to kind of get people like worry that this guy or this gal, they're going to do something here. I don't totally understand what they're doing, but there's something here. There's an energy there that I've got to jump on or I'm going to miss it. And that's harder. That's a fuzzier one to boil down, but that's got to be there too.
Yeah. It's so necessary though. You have to your point, you have to create some kind of feeling or connection or excitement around what you're doing. I mean, even if it's very utility based, it's still we still got to feel excited, especially for an investor to, actually be a part of the company and kind of see where it's going. They need to also feel excited about where their money's going, and not just the money, but which I think that it's even more important is the time investment. So,
Yeah.
I mean, some investors, are silent, but then some of them, they actually want to be a part of it. Maybe they're advisory board. Maybe they're actually like, hey, maybe I could play a role in the company and just get it to a certain point. Like, there's all different types, but that's why the excitement is so important. So, yes, it's a kind of one of that warm and fuzzy thing, but I think it's also so critical to actually having success in raising capital.
Yep, totally. You're 100%. You've got to connect with them emotionally. Like, hey, this is something that's going to make me look good when I talk about it on the golf course or on the pickleball court or the basketball court or
Yeah.
whatever. I'm saying I'm involved with this startup. Is it going to make me look good in the eyes of my peers? And that's the emotional part, but also like, do I think I can make money off this? Right? Is this like
Yeah.
financial? Is it logical? And how's that? Those are a good combo, right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I also want to talk about, you kind of were talking about it, but I want to talk about how did you grow your first company? Like what was some of the avenues, the channels, because as other founders are listening and watching this, you also have successfully grown your own company as well, multiple. And so what were some of the ways that you were able to get client acquisition, get people to learn about what you guys are all about, and also trust the platform?
Yeah. Yeah. And this is kind of goes back to your earlier question of why do I like founders? Because they're scrappy and creative and you're
Yeah.
creating something from nothing. When we started off, I pretty much bootstrapped this to get it something built. I'm not a coder. I'm not a programmer. So I would go work my consulting jobs, earn some money, take that money and give half of it to some coders and
Yeah.
developers in Poland to build it, right? And then we put it out there and, to the customer acquisition part, like we're selling software to startup founders raising capital. Okay. Those are our target audience. How do I get in front of that target audience? One of the things we did that I thought was pretty creative is we would put on events. We called it like Funding 2.0, I think was our series of events. And I would go out and find some place like a law firm or even WeWork, I think, in the early days or other
Yeah.
bigger startups that had some space and say, hey, we want to hold an event at your place. Can we get your space? Then we would go and recruit some like VCs, venture capitalists, and maybe a prominent angel or two and say, hey, we're putting on this event, Funding 2.0. Do you want to be a panelist or a speaker, keynote speaker? And so then we get some, as I call them, the magnets. And then we would
Yeah.
publicize it on Eventbrite and LinkedIn and other places like, hey, we're launching Funding 2.0. Sign up here, $20, whatever, something cheap. But I think our largest one was almost 500 founders and like a couple different panels of investors. And
Wow.
who's moderating and who's like introducing? Of course, it's me.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm Nathan. We're launching FounderSuite. Oh, by the way, you're all here to meet investors and talk to investors. It was kind of a triple win-win because we got exposure to our product. We made a
Yeah.
little bit of money, like a couple $1,000 per event, not a ton of
Yeah.
money. And we're building relationships with investors, and it was marketing, right? So it's
Yeah.
kind of like win-win-win on all accounts. So that was one fun way. Doing
Yeah.
events
Yeah.
didn't really
Yeah.
cost us anything, made some money off them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's like I love innovative marketing. Of course you have your traditional ways, but I love the innovative stuff. I love the experiential. I just think there's nothing. Yes, every channel to marketing, there's value in each area, but there's nothing like experiential marketing because you may leave an impression on somebody that will last a lifetime. And
Yep.
I'm sure there's people that went to your event are still talking about it till this day. You know, you never know who they're connected to because of that event, what relationships or partnerships were built from it, or just, you know, what spin-off things have happened from it. I mean, you have no clue from all the different ripple effects that could happen, but there's a couple people out there that are still like, man, dude, the events that Nathan was throwing, oh my goodness, those things were it, man.
Off the hook. No. Yeah. No, you're totally right though, because you think about it, like you do an event like that. Let's just take it even 2 steps further.
Yeah,
Okay, great. You've got a guest list of everyone that registered, right? So now you're
yeah,
building a list of people that you can do marketing to if you choose to. You can, using email addresses and names, you can look them up on LinkedIn and connect with them on LinkedIn, right? And now they're starting to see you on LinkedIn. Um, and of course, you can invite them to future events. I mean, there's just, so it kind of all builds on itself, right? And that's what's
yeah.
fun about it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I also want to talk about the content engine for your podcast, how I raised it. Can you just talk about first of all, why did you feel like as a company that you wanted to launch a podcast? And then second off, like how are you able to grow it to what it is today?
Yeah. So, okay, that's a great question. So, events are cool, right? But they actually do take a lot of time and effort, right? I
They
talked
do.
about all the good stuff. You know, it's hard. There's so much work that is involved in putting an event. We thought a podcast would be a little bit easier. And one of the things that we try and do in my company, FounderSuite, is usually around like January 1st, almost like a New Year's Eve ritual, is like, hey, start of a new year, let's come up with 1 or 2 new marketing experiments to try, right? And this is a couple years ago, but like one of them was like, let's just try a podcast, see what happens, right? Um, Beauty about a podcast, again, it doesn't really cost much or anything. I mean, maybe you get a nice microphone. I mean, you could tell me how much it costs to start a podcast, right? But
Yeah.
um, maybe you're in it for $1,000 or whatever, right? So the thought there is like, how can we do something like an event, but with a larger, more scalable audience? Same general concept as we're getting like prominent founders and investors on the show talking about raising capital, so that will attract our target audience. Um, and you just start doing it, and of course, one of the beauty things about podcasts, as you very well know, is all right. I just recorded this podcast with this investor, and this investor has 20,000 Twitter followers. You can't force them, but there's a good chance they might promote that podcast to their followers. So you're able to sort of tap your guests, network around that, right, to help grow it. And I think just being consistent and putting out pretty good quality regularly is what gets people to kind of pay attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what about repurposing it? Because I know you
Yeah.
guys repurpose a lot of content.
Yeah. Actually, I like that part. So, you record these podcasts, right, and now you've got an audio and video recording. There are different ways to get that turned into written content. I mean, there's everything from AI tools that will just do it kind of for you, to using humans to do it, everything in between. We actually do use some third parties that will take our content and write blog posts from it, right?
Okay.
And these are really well written. It's not just AI generated crap. It's actually like
Yeah.
well written. Yeah. So great. We've got this content written. So what do you do with that? Well, we always kind of almost have like a hierarchy. We'll try and guest publish it on, TechCrunch or Forbes or something like that. And maybe a quarter of them gets accepted.
Hmm.
Okay. So if we can't get it on there, what's our next tier? Um, LinkedIn publishing or our own blog, or we have a Medium channel too. So we might publish it on there.
Yeah.
Um, and then oftentimes if it's really really good, we'll chop it up into like shorter clips and publish it on Instagram or TikTok, and we're really just starting on TikTok and stuff like that, but like other platforms that are more shorter form content. And
Yeah.
so one interview can become 5 different pieces of content for 5 different platforms.
Yeah, for sure. And have you seen I guess a return on your investment as or in time as far as doing the podcast so far?
Yes, but that is actually a great question, because I don't feel we're very good at tracking
Yeah.
this, or we
A
could
little
do a
more
much better
difficult,
job.
right?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to your thoughts on this. Like, we do get people say, "Oh, I heard you about it on the podcast," and every now and then we'll have like a, you know, sign up here, like in the show notes or in the comments, sign up here, get a free investor list or something. So there's some
Yeah.
ways of tracking it, but I often feel like we're putting this out there in the universe and sort of hoping, almost like karma, it's coming back to us.
Yeah.
I can't tell you an ROI. I can't tell you like a true number of customers we generated. That's
Yeah.
probably a fault in that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think also too it is a lot of brand building too with the podcast. Now, what I could tell you is that there's certain platforms that will give you more data than others. So
Yeah.
depending on like the back end that you're using, there are platforms that will give you a little bit more of like targeted data of who's listening, when, what are the most popular episodes, what is those interactions, who's actually subscribed, who's not subscribed, that type of day, a little bit more information. And then it's about, honestly, you were kind of mentioning it already, but the repurposing content, like just being very intentional about making sure that those links are trackable, when you're
Yeah.
saying like, hey, the sign up link, how many people clicked on that link, because I think podcasting is also a mold with social media and then also email marketing. So there's like kind of a three-prong approach to it. And then
Hmm.
it's just making sure that you're tracking as much as possible that each one of these engines that you have is running at a good pace, and you're actually getting results from it. But the the thing is just being very intentional about either the call to actions, and then also saying, hey, how did you hear about us? Like just asking like, hey, so if there's a sign up on the website, on the platform, it's like, hey, how did you hear about us? If people are selecting podcasts, okay, then you may know that they came from the podcast. So it's just a couple of those metrics and things like that sometimes help.
I like that. Actually, we need the how did you hear about us? I'm writing that down. If I
Yeah.
can ask you a question, what's your favorite back-end platform or tracking platform? Do you have something that's working well for you?
So far, one that's working well for us is Buzzsprout. Is
Mm,
pretty good. Riverside is okay. Um, but Buzzsprout I feel like is pretty good. And then there's one other one. Oh, I forgot the name of it. I can get it, but another podcast that I was on, it's called a business development podcast that I was on, and he's been testing out also a lot of different platforms, and he like swears by this other one that I have never heard of before. See,
mm,
that's the thing. There's also like it's such a new space. There's platforms popping up
yeah,
left and right, and I
right.
can't keep up.
Totally,
But
totally.
Buzzsprout's been pretty good, and they actually are constantly updating their platform as well, which is helpful when unlike some of the other ones that are like, yeah, it was great for a time, but we need more data.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'll check it out. Thanks.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. No, it's cool. It's cool. No, this is great because this helps out the audience and as they're trying to, launch up their own stuff of like where to go. What I want to ask you as far as for your platform, who are the type of founders that you're really looking for? Like, is there a founder that's too early to go and sign up for FounderSuite, or or can they be at any stage? Like what is the type of founder that you're really looking for to connect with?
The only too early stage I'd say is where it's really just an idea. And,
Okay.
we get people all the time like, I have an idea for something that's really going to help the world. Can I get money for this? Like, well, you got to take it a little further, right?
Yeah.
It's just no one wants to fund an idea. There's too much execution risk, market risk, everything. All the risks are
Yeah.
involved when you're at idea stage. Now, having said that, it is good to actually start this process and start thinking about raising capital way far in advance, right? It's kind of like if
Mhm.
you want to be a professional athlete, you kind of need to start when you're 11 years
Yeah.
old or 10. Um,
Right.
you don't wait till you're in college. And there's a little bit like that with raising capital too, because you have to start building, identifying the right investors, building and nurturing those relationships over time. Because there's a great quote. I didn't invent this. Mark Suster of Upfront Ventures, I believe, is the one that said this. But investors invest in lines, not dots, right? So
Mm.
you want to kind of build lines with investors, and that takes time. You want to kind of tell them early on, this is what I'm doing. I'm working on this. We're still really early. We're not yet launched, blah, blah, blah. And then you meet them two or 3 months later at an event or even just online. And you say, oh, we launched and we're da, da, da. And, you're kind of building these like
Oh,
building blocks
okay.
of a relationship with investors. And so you want to start that process early, right? So if you're, I'd say that maybe the ideal time, if I had to pin this down, is when you're actually building a product, even pre-launch, but maybe you're within 2 or 3 months of launching. Good time to start, identifying the right investors and starting to nurture relationships with those. Doesn't mean you're going to get funded right away, but your funding might not happen for another year.
Yeah.
But they need to get to know you and see that you can make progress, that you're pushing this thing forward, that you're driven, you break through walls, all that good stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, that's good. That's good. And because I think everybody wants to raise money. Um, but it's about the process, right? Of actually what does it take to actually acquire the capital? And I think a lot of people are thinking about it in dots. I think that was an awesome thing what you just said, dots and really it should be lines. So you
Yeah.
should already be building relationships early instead of just being like, all right, here it is. Like, let's go. Like, how much you gonna put in? Like, what are you gonna do? Who can you introduce me to? It's like, well, you also got to have a little bit of a track record too. And people
Yeah.
like to see the journey that you're actually gonna do what you say you're gonna do too. People got tons of ideas, but like a good friend of mine's always like, ideas are cheap and ideas are free.
Yeah.
Like
Totally.
everybody could have an idea, but who's actually executing and showing the market, like, is this really viable? Can you at least get this off the ground? I was going to ask you, what about like proof of concept? Is there a certain level of proof of concept where, hey, I got, X amount of customers on my platform, I have a website and I have a few testimonials of people that have actually gone through the process, of using my product or service. Is there kind of like a baseline like that where people can be set up a little bit more for success?
Yes, but it's really depends on every business, right? If you're an
Yeah.
enterprise business building, you know, uh, something sold to Fortune 500 companies, then even just one or two proof of concepts that large Fortune 500 companies are looking at this and playing and giving you time and attention, that's
Hmm.
great. If you're more of a web startup or social or social media type of thing, then you're probably talking like tens of thousands of individuals using it, right? You've got followers or subscribers or whatever the metric may be. So it really kind of depends on the business. But bottom line, like, take a step back, put yourself in the shoes of an investor. Eh, Entrepreneurs coming to you, they have an idea, they have a vision. Have they been able to get people to kind of validate that vision, right? In some way,
Hmm.
shape, or form? And again, it might be a single enterprise customer or might be 10,000 consumers who are logging in daily. Doesn't really matter what that is, but yes, people are actually, they care about your solution to this problem. They're adopting it, they're using it, they're sticking around. One of the problems we had in our early days when we launched is people like loved the concept of FounderSuite, but our product wasn't very good, so they wouldn't stick around. Right? So, we had people signing up but not staying around. So can you demonstrate people are coming back and using you and sticking with you, even though you're imperfect and you're flawed and really simple right now, right?
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. No, this is fantastic, fantastic advice. I want to talk real quick also, and then maybe this might snowball into from the podcast, but a little bit about your LinkedIn. So you've built up a great LinkedIn audience. I know a lot of our listeners and followers and audience are all building an audience in some way, shape, or form for their brand or for their business.
Yeah.
How did you actually get to getting some traction on LinkedIn? And what were some of, like, if you can just give us some golden nuggets as far as what worked for you to be able to get the audience that you have today?
Yeah, with all social media, and I'm not a social media expert by any chance, but with all media, it comes down to quality and consistency, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
And LinkedIn, very much so. So we tell you a couple of things that have worked on LinkedIn. Obviously, our content's just like you would expect it to be. It's about how to raise capital for startups.
Yeah.
That can mean different things. It could be talking about like the process of raising capital. It could be the, analysis of like broader trends, like is funding up, down, going sideways. It's also sometimes giveaways. Some of the most successful LinkedIn posts are giveaways where it's like, here's a list of 500 deep tech investors, or we're going to launch one pretty soon that's like a list of 100 family offices. So it's a little bit of our product, a tiny little bit of our product, because we have an investor database in FounderSuite, but it's a little tiny sample, I guess you could say.
Sample size
of our product with some content around it, and and then giving that out, and asking people to comment or like or share, all that stuff, kind of juicing that. And again, I can't tell you how this works, but so much of it is like trying to trigger the algorithm, where the extent of my knowledge is like this. And I think this applies to most platforms, if people are pretty frequently and consistently liking and sharing and commenting, especially like sharing, then that's going to trigger their algorithm to show your stuff more often. And so you're trying to build content that does that. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Easier said than done, but that's the general gist of it, right? And
no, that's great. And I think it gives people another idea of, are you guys doing any kind of giveaways? So we just did actually a personal branding retreat in New York Times Square, literally like a week and a half ago. It was absolutely crazy. I featured all the entrepreneurs on a billboard in Times Square. And then we also did podcasting in Times Square. And then we also had workshops where we actually helped I brought in like experts and speakers. But it was awesome. It was like 25 just powerhouse entrepreneurs all learning and building our personal brand. And I brought in a guy named Jake Fleschner. So he used to work with David Meltzer, and he now has a business called Nucleus Network. But he had started this thing a few months ago called, it's basically on LinkedIn, where he says, hey, keep reading if you like coffee. And all he does is say that he's going to choose, it started off with just 10 people are going to, get a free coffee on him. And so we kept sending out the gift cards to people. Now when he posts it, the post goes nuts every single time. Hey, keep liking or keep reading if you like coffee. And this is similar to your strategy too, where you're giving something away, right, of value to people, and people want to participate in that and have a shot at getting the item. And it's the same thing like coffee. So now he actually goes around in events in different spaces, and he's known as the coffee guy. And he's got Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks actually contacting him to
Oh,
do deals and like
smart.
brand deals with it. It's just crazy, but it just goes to show you how far it can go if you just are giving a little bit more and kind of creating your own kind of unique niche in a social media platform. So I think the your list giveaway is an awesome idea. I think others can think about what is your giveaway? You know, what is your thing that you can do that once again hones in on your business and your brand, but something that, you know, because if you're always asking stuff from people all the time, it's like it's gonna get annoying. It's like this guy's selling to me all the time. I don't want to hear about it anymore. But that's probably why you built up the audience too, because of great content, podcasting, frequency of posting, like you said, consistency and quality. But hey, giveaways and things that will actually will build a community.
Love it. Love it. I think, is it, I've never seen this guy, but my kids watch him, Mr. Beast. Isn't it, he
Yeah,
built this whole thing on that, right? Where he's giving away like
yeah.
crazy big ticket
Now
items.
he's
Yeah.
giving away, I mean, millions of dollars. He's just giving it away, which I'm like, man, I mean, if he's giving away that much, how much does he have? Like
Yeah,
crazy,
he's
crazy
figured out
amounts.
his own algorithm. I can give away 1 million and generate 10
Right.
million from views and whatever else, sponsorships. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
exactly. And then I know in our past conversation, you talked a little bit about controversial pieces. Like, do you do any type of content or anything that kind of maybe triggers where it's a little controversial or a little on the edge of like, hey, should I interact with this, or maybe it's a different idea that are unlike most?
Yeah, we don't do much of that.
Okay.
I think that's actually pretty effective. I know people who do,
Yeah.
and it gets anything that's, you know, almost obviously politics, the perfect example, but anything that
Yeah.
sort of has almost two equally weighted opinions, right? And that you can get people fighting about is going to
Yes.
probably go viral because people are passionate about that. You're waking people up and getting them. We don't do that much. It's hard. That's a bit of a tricky path, right? Because
Yeah.
I've seen it done really well, and I've seen it where people just get kind of tired of all the
Yeah.
haters. You
It's like, all
know?
right, we don't want your drama.
Ah, God. I think it's a kind of a shortcut. I mean, it's a bit of a shortcut to getting virality and
Yeah.
views if you're willing to play that game. It's just not
Yeah.
something we've done that much. So yeah,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
For sure. For sure. Yeah.
Do
Um,
you do you do like highly controversial posts or
I so
Mhm.
not I don't really touch politics too much. But on purpose, I do try to think of things that are a little bit against the grain. Especially if it's something I really believe in or my values, my morals are attached to.
Yeah.
Because one thing what I found out is by it's not necessarily to trigger people. It's more to it's either thought provoking or it's choosing a certain side in a moral and a value approach. But what I found is that it almost separates the people that maybe you don't want to do business with in the first place. And it
Mm,
says, okay, we'll go over there. Then it attracts the people that are like, yeah, I believe in the same thing, or I was kind of thinking that too. And then all of a sudden they start to say, like, I really, really like Jamar and Forever Media because they actually align with my values and my morals. So it's a
yeah.
little bit of a game of like you're trying to repel, you know, out the people that you don't want to do business with anyways. Because when it came down to it, even if they got the money, it's kind of like we're not seeing the same here. And that will probably, you know, turn out to not be a really great working relationship maybe later on. You
Yeah.
know, so I think it's just I don't do it a ton, but if I really am like on some, I'll just be like, hey, and I'll make sure it's very like apparent to people, like this is how I'm feeling about this.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting. Cool.
yeah. There's one post I did one time that was like, you're not black enough. And yeah.
Oh, that's a good loaded topic. Yeah.
So that was one of the, you know, controversial type posts because I'm like, okay, on one side, I got one group telling me that I'm not black enough, and I got the other side telling me I'm not black enough. So what does it mean to be black?
Oh wow.
And then it
Jeez.
was like my comments were just like oh my God, I felt that way too. This and that. Oh, I've seen this. And then people were just going back and forth. Oh, it was great. This is actually a reminder. I need to maybe spin that one back up.
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna stay
Yeah.
away from that landmine or that minefield, but I think that's genius.
Oh man.
Funny.
I want to ask you a question about you say you built up a team of nearly 30 people. What are some learning lessons that we can all learn from building a team? Who were some of your first hires? And what is some critical lessons that you learned with actually building a team and leadership?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think one of the things, whenever if you're in like the tech world or tech startup world, or I'll use that as my base because that's what I know best. But hire a product manager as soon as you can. When I first started out, I was kind of designing the products myself and using the whiteboard and like, oh, what if we, do buttons here and color? I'm like, oh, I'm not a product guy, right? Like I realized over time, like most of my ideas are bad. And I even say this today to my product and design team, like I have an opinion. I always qualify, like I have an opinion about this, but overrule me because I'm not a designer. I'm not a product person. I think, it should be like this, but like actually trusting a product team. So getting out of your
Yeah.
own way, right? And maybe you went to Rhode Island School of Design and you are a product person, great. But if you're not, I'm a finance guy by nature, so
Yeah.
I shouldn't be designing products. So hire a product person as soon as you can to really kind of own that part of it. Um, and don't hire a PR firm. We hired a PR firm in our early days,
Yeah.
spent a bunch of money. I even gave them a little bit of equity, and then I had to it went total
Oh
disaster. I had
wow.
to get a lawyer to basically scrounge the equity back from these guys because they were just
Yeah.
terrible. Um, I think, I'm not the best hire. I think people are good and methodical about this. I kind of go on gut. My gut is, especially at the start. So maybe this applies to the early days of a startup, maybe not as the
Yeah.
company gets bigger, but I'm always kind of optimizing for, do you feel like you're just someone that can I swear on this podcast?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Are you get shit done, right? GSD.
Yeah.
Are you someone who I feel like you're just a little turbocharged,
Yeah.
person that gets stuff done, and I
Yeah.
can give you stuff. I know it's going to come back pretty close to being done or right without a lot of oversight and management. And so I'd actually optimize for, people who are junior or even right out of college or whatever, but they just have that sort of innate, get stuff done quality versus someone who's got 7 years at big company that are going to be lost in a startup. So that's one thing.
Key lesson right there. Key lesson. I mean, you said it very kind of humbly and quick, but not necessarily does the resume mean that they're qualified to work in the time and space that your company is in. And I
Yeah.
think that is so I've heard that many times people make that mistake of, hey, resume looks great, they're going to get us to the next level, everything, all the things, but they're coming from a big company, and you got to be scrappy. You got to be
Yeah.
scrappy when you're a startup. You don't got all the processes and everything laid out, and it's just different mindsets,
Yes.
I've made the mistake too of hiring certain individuals that weren't in the mindset. I'm like, look, we're in growth mode right now, guys. We're not in coast mode.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Uh-huh.
there's a different mindset when it comes down, to getting to work, maybe wearing a couple different hats, trying some new things, working a little bit longer, but it's those little things that you need really to set the foundation right away for your team. So I feel you on that. That's a really good point.
Can you point someone in the general direction we want to get over there? Can you figure it out and get it done, right? Like
Yeah.
all the other stuff in between, we know where we're trying to go, but all the other stuff is wilderness that you've got to figure it out and get shit done. Um, I
Yeah.
think maybe something else just in the early days. Now we do a couple different stand-ups. I think I have like 4 or 5 stand-ups with different
Okay.
team groups per week. That
Mhm.
didn't do that at first and probably should have, right? Just to keep everyone on the same page. Even when you're all, in the same room together or pretty small team, I think it's really good to just have this standing weekly Tuesday morning, 10 a.m. product discussion or Thursday sales call, whatever it is, right? Just have that rhythm, which is really good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. No, and do you guys do like Scrum? Is that where that's coming from as far as the stand up?
On the engineering side, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I've always been a big advocate for Scrum, that kind of mentality. Even in the in my line of business, it's not into software, but we've actually adopted some of that framework and mentality when it comes down to getting things out. Like, we don't have releases, but
Yeah.
we do have project deadlines. We do have, we got to keep things moving. Maybe there's events that we're planning, like the retreat we just did. There's things that are happening that we need those quick standouts. We need those quick checkpoints because it opens up for conversation. You just got to make sure that you stay within the time frame, because it can
Yep.
definitely get bloated out pretty quick if people start bringing up all types of stuff, and it's like, okay, we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about this.
Yes.
Like, just
Exactly. Totally.
yeah. No, this is great. This is great, Nathan. I think this is a lot of great information. So if one last question for you. So if a founder's listening right now and they actually are out there pitching, maybe it's been a year and a half, they're just not getting any traction. Any advice for them?
Yeah, I raised money on my third try, right? So
Yeah.
for FounderSuite, and I'd probably done what almost you're describing, where I went out, started pitching, was getting nowhere. And so I took a break, like, all right, let's go back, just focus on the business, kind of heads down, and get the business further. And then I tried again, still wasn't far enough, and I wasn't getting any reaction. I think I waited 6 more months and went out kind of third time's a charm, and went out there to raise, and finally did raise. But I think that's the thing. If you're not getting any bites, now I have to caution that by saying one of the metrics I always tell people is, and I use myself as an example, I pitched over 200 investors, ended up with 1 venture fund, 10 angels, which is about 5% conversion rate. That also means I got rejected 95% of the time when I was out there raising capital. So you have to distinguish between, am I just not getting much traction and I just need to keep talking to a lot of investors to get my 5% conversion rate? Or am I just really not getting any love? And that's a hard line to figure out, which side of that are you on, right?
Yeah.
So I think you just have to talk to a statistically significant sample size of investors and use just your gut. Like, hey, I'm not even getting callbacks or second meetings on any of these. Maybe I need to go move the business forward, versus, a handful of these guys and gals are interested. I just need to keep kissing frogs and talking to a lot more investors. It's a hard one to figure out, but if you've been out there a year, though, to go to your question specifically, you've been out there a year and no one's really even talking about putting down a term sheet, probably take a pause, get the business further, get your traction metrics up.
Yeah. Or you also may need to work on your pitch. Maybe your pitch is just like, to your point in the
100%.
beginning of the podcast, like maybe you're all over the place on your pitch, and people can't. I know I get pitched ideas all the time, and I'm telling you, the people that can tell me clearly and concisely exactly what's going on quickly, those are the ones that are going to succeed as far as getting any kind of interest into partnerships, collaboration, or even getting involved in any way, shape, or form. If you're taking me on a whole journey of your whole life, I I don't even want to, like, you already lost me.
Totally.
You already lost. So yeah, I think that's really, really great advice, man. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. Hey, where can people find you and get connected?
Absolutely. So the websites of my startups are FounderSuite, FounderSuite.com for startups, and then Funding Stack one word, just like it sounds, fundingstack.com if you're an advisor, consultant, or VC. And then we're at Twitter or X-FounderSuite, same with Facebook, and I think Instagram and TikTok. But probably the best way is to connect with me on LinkedIn, Nathan Beckord, Beckord. Say you found it on the Forever podcast, and happy to connect with you. You will start to see a lot of fundraising content in your stream, probably. So keep that in mind. But but happy to connect and chat and help if I can. So that'd be great.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. So if everybody's listening, watching, please like, comment, subscribe to the podcast. We are everywhere where you can get podcasts. And don't forget, guys, if you can change your circle, you can change your life. Thank you so much, Nathan, for being on the podcast. And we'll catch everybody on the next one. Peace.
Thanks so much.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell for more amazing content that we're going to be putting out. And don't forget, you can change your circle to change your life.